What's going on YouTube? Tom here at Birds Blades. Today we're taking a look at this Microtech Signature Series. This is their MSI Outbreak. And as far as I can tell, these are no longer available anywhere on the internet, not even Microtech's website. You might be able to find one in a brick and mortar store near you, but I don't know. This is how they ship it anyway. They have their typical Microtech pamphlet with their stickers in there, and I really like this. I really appreciate how Microtech does this. So every Microtech I've ever bought comes with this little inspected by sticker, and the reason I like that so much is because that means that there's somebody out there at Microtech that is looking at each and every knife, and they're making sure that it passes their quality control. So there is actually a person out there looking at each and every knife, making sure that it's up to par to be shipped out. I really like that, because there's times in the past where I've bought knives from certain companies, and like the one I'm thinking of, it was a flipper, and I went to go flip the knife and the blade opened up to about here. It's like, okay, like, did you try this knife before you shipped it out, or I don't know. But anyway, getting back to the knife here, this is the Microtech Standard Issue MSI Outbreak Signature Series, and I really like what they did here. The MSI, for one, is just a killer knife, and I really like how they brought the Outbreak series to the MSI. The Outbreak series is supposed to be their apocalyptic or zombie themed knife, something that's been through the apocalypse and came out the other side, which I think they do a bang up job on it. Looking at this, you have their polymer handle scales that are in this dark green with light green highlights, and it looks like it's worn and it looks like it's used. And then they have this little splatter or splotches of red kind of scattered all throughout the handles here. And that's supposed to imitate like zombie blood kind of splattered all over the knife, and I think that is sweet. Like, each and every Outbreak knife is going to be different because they're not like a copy of one another. It's just splattered on there. I don't know. It's an awesome looking knife. Anyway, when you could find these knives, they came in at $255. Their blade length is 4 inches. That is the whole blade, not just the cutting edge. Their overall length is 8.75 inches. That's from tip to butt. Their weight is 4.57 ounces. So it's, I guess, kind of on a little bit of the heavier side for some. I don't know. Personally, I like my knives heavy. I like my knives bulky, big, burly, overbuilt. So for me, this is a great EDC size knife. And back to the handles here. They have the jimping on the back, just like every other MSI. Their pocket clip is a reversible pocket clip, so you can put it on the left side. You just move this plate over here and replace it. Staying on the topic of the pocket clip, though, you can see it says Outbreak. It has the date of birth and then the signature. Normally, MSI pocket clips have MSI. Here, I actually have one somewhere. No, I don't. I thought I had one, but they have MSI, serial number, date of birth, and then they have the Microtech logo. So I like how they changed the clip going into the signature series as well. It's just a little subtle touch that I think adds character to the knife. Right above the pocket clip there, you have this lanyard hole. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of lanyard holes on knives. I think they look kind of tacky, and personally, I don't run lanyards on my knives, so I don't have a purpose for them. But in this case, I actually like it. So it ties in up here with this kind of odd-shaped cutout on the blade. It kind of ties it all together, and then you can see through. You can see through the ram lock up here. So it's kind of, I don't really know how to describe it, but I actually really like it on this knife. It pulls it off quite good. The hardware for holding the scales on is actually a T8 hardware. They're They're pocket clip screws. They're also T8. The main pivot, the blade pivot up there, is a T20. That is a massive pivot screw, but it's a T20. It just kind of fits the bill for this knife. This knife is going for a very overbuilt, rugged, like, build, I guess. And they knocked it out of the park on this one. Looking at the backspacer, you have this acid wash backspacer, and it looks like they went in there with like a bead blaster or something. There's kind of the hints of brown and green, a little bit of tan mixed throughout that backspacer. It doesn't look like it's picking it up on camera. No, it's not. That's unfortunate, but there is different colors kind of scattered throughout that backspacer. And that's supposed to make it look like it was a used knife or abused knife. Again, going back to the zombie apocalypse theme of the knife. I do wish that they would have done a little bit of that acid wash and bead blast maybe up here on their ram lock. I think that would have just pushed this knife right over the edge. Either way, regardless, this is an absolutely killer knife. They knocked it out of the park. I love the knife. Moving on to the blade. Like I said earlier, this is a 4-inch blade. That is the whole blade, not just the cutting edge. And it is a M390 MK blade. So M390 MK is Microtech's take on M390, which, for those of you that don't know, M390 is a phenomenal steel for knives. It's considered up in the super steels for knives. I absolutely love the steel. And M390 MK is Microtech's take on that. The only difference, as far as I could tell, is that M390 MK takes just a little bit more of a polish over M390, and I think that's due to a little bit more chromium in M390 MK. I could be wrong. I'm not a metallurgist by no means. That's just from the research I've done. Sticking with the blade, you can see that it is an acid wash blade, and there's camera's picking it up here. There is hints of tan, green, brown kind of scattered throughout on this blade. That's the colors I was trying to show you on the backspacer, but the camera was not picking it up. I think that is so cool. I have no idea how they did that blade finish, but I love it. It looks used, rugged, abused. It almost looks like it sat in a lake or a river for like a month or so, and then they took it out and they did like a satin or a belt satin finish on the flat there. I don't know how they did it. It just looks, it looks awesome. The blade shape, it's a very utilitarian blade shape for an EDC knife. I love how the point is nice and low. You can get in there, you can do draw cuts. It's a perfect blade shape for EDC in my opinion. The opening mechanism, I guess if you want to call it that, or deployment method with the hole there, I absolutely love that. Personally, my favorite opening knives are Spyderco's with the spider hole, and I think they did a phenomenal job with the hole on this blade. To keep with the blade, you have this Outbreak logo in replacement of the Microtech logo, which would be found on the normal MSI. I like how they changed that up too. That's really cool. Getting into ergonomics of this knife is an ergonomic dream. You have this nice little ramp here with this nice big jimping. Normally I don't like big jimping. I like nice tight sharp jimping like what's on Spyderco's, but this pulls it off in a way that I would have never imagined I would have liked. But hey, I actually really like it. It's almost like your thumb just slides right on down this flat spot and just nestles right in there, and you're locked in. My forefinger, or my pointer finger here, you can see, uses this as a finger choil. I don't know if that is actually a finger choil, but my fingers are small enough that I can use it as a finger choil. My other two fingers fit perfectly in that indent on the blade, and then my pinky can just wrap around and it locks my hand in there. This knife is not going anywhere. This thing cannot come out. I love the ergonomics of this knife. They are phenomenal. moving on to the ram lock. This is Microtech's ram lock. I believe it's their version of Benchmade's access lock, or their take on a bar style lock, and I think they pulled it off fantastic. I do have a Benchmade for comparison. I have this Benchmade 710 McHenry & Williams design, and this is utilizing Benchmade's access lock. This is their upgraded access lock with the flat Omega springs that are inset in the liners. This was a 25-year remembrance, I guess, knife of the introduction of the access lock. I think they did a bang up job on this knife, but you can see that it functions pretty much the same as this Microtech, the only difference being that Microtech uses a coil spring, kind of more similar to Spyderco and their Manix 2 with the ball lock, whereas Benchmade uses the Omega springs that do something like that are inset in the liners, holding tension on the bar, pushing it that way where it will engage on that flat spot on the back of the blade. You can see it right there. You pull it back, it unlocks the blade drops free. That's the same basic fundamentals or function of how this works. You can see this blade is a little bit more of a guillotine when you drop it. You don't want to have your fingers in the way, but hey, that's nice about this design is your fingers are not in the way. You can have your fingers out of the cutting path. That's phenomenal. But like I said earlier, this uses a coil spring that is more similar to the Spyderco Manix 2 and the ball lock. Now, I'm not biased towards one knife or the other as far as the locking system goes. I do not have enough experience with either lock to really form an opinion. To me, they function pretty much the same. I can get a better purchase on the ram lock, I will say. With gloves, you can still access it. There's no problems at all. It protrudes out, not too far, but it protrudes out enough. I do like how they have this little X pattern on their lock that slowly gets bigger as you go down. It's kind of like the switches on their OTFs. It resembles that a little bit. I don't know. I really like the lock. I've heard there's complaints about the lock. People say they fail on a spine whack. I haven't had any issues personally with it, but I also have not carried this knife. So I guess we'll see. Only time will tell. So far, I love the lock. As far as the rest of the knife goes, or the knife as a whole goes, the blade shape is phenomenal. Blade steel is phenomenal. I love the deployment method with that hole. The crossbar style lock is phenomenal. That's one of my favorite locks, due to the fact that you can have your fingers out of the way of the cutting edge when you open and close it. That way you are never at risk of cutting your fingers. Lanyard hole, not normally a fan of, but on this knife, and in this case, I actually like it. Overbuilt, rugged, robust knife. Awesome knife, phenomenal knife. Ambidextrous, fully ambidextrous, meaning you can swap the pocket clip over for a left-hand carry, and the ram lock can be accessed with both left and right hand. Overall, it's a great knife. Fit and finish of it is phenomenal. Quality of it is phenomenal. And for the price, when you could get these, they were coming in, like I said earlier, for around the $255 range. I think that is a killer deal for what you're getting here. This is a phenomenal knife for $255 as far as I'm concerned. I think now you'll only be able to find these on the second-hand or the used market, unfortunately. And in that case, it's just the seller makes his own price. Either way, wrap this video up here. If you like the video, leave a like. Comment down below what you want to see me do next. And until next time, thanks for watching and have a good one.